àggale laa wax doo ma àggale
loolu neex rek.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين رضي الله عن الصحابة أجمعين mbokki ñi ngi nuyu ñëpp di ziyaar ñëpp waaye di sant ñëpp ci ànd gi nga xam ne moom lañ àndandoo ak Daaray Sopey Cheikhoul Khadeem ci jotaayu xam-xam yi ci jamono bu ne waaye rawatina ci koor gi ci programme bi nga xam ne moo di programme Naylul Maraam Naylul Maraam waxoon nañ ko li muy tekki ci wolof mooy nit ki li muy sàkku mu am ko ci ak yombal mooy amuk càkkutéef li nga bëgg yàlla jox la ko yàlla nañu ko yàlla defal nee nañ leen wooy Cheikh Mouhamadou Fadal amoon na aw diggu rëy ca Touba Mérina moom la tuddee woon ay toolam ñu naan ko Nayluun waaye Naylul Maraam la daara ji nga xam ne fa lañ mujj jàngee ci wàllu alxuraan ci Sénégal it noonu lañ ko tuddee bari na lool nag lool ay organisation yu ko tudd ak ay daara bari na lool même sax ñoo xam ne yeneen kër yi diina lañ bokk ba ci defe naa suma jum gis naa ko ci waa kër Cheikh Ibrahima Niass Baye organisation boo xam ne noonu la tudd waaye ñun ñu ngi koy barkeeloo rek ci toolu Cheikh Mouhamadou Fadal yooyu ak sëñ daara jooju yi nga xam ne kenn la ci waa kër Cheikh Mouhamadou Fadal yàlla na yàlla barkeel borom tur yooyu yëpp rek ci barke ba Alxuraan kon tey ñu toog suñu mag suñu frère suñu broda waaye suñu tonton it waaye tamit mën nañ ne it suñu papa la ndax côté yooyu boo ko natt mu jël ndax bu fekkee dañ ne suñ frère la innamal mu'minuuna ixwa beneen bi mooy dañ koo xam ci yoon woowu lañ ko njëkk xamee njëkk ñi ñu koy présenté beneen bi mooy féete nañu mën nañu nijaay sëkk beneen bi mooy ci wàllu digganteem ak sama waajur yàlla na ko yàlla yërëm Sëriñ Moussa Mbaye daf koo fonkoon lool mu nekk xaritam lool ndax bëggum bëgg xam-xam te Baye Moussa dafa bëggoon xam-xam lool looloo taxoon mu fonkoon ko lool ba noppi ñu bokkoon fu ñu dëkk ci Sénégal si ñaari buntu kër yi ca Tëngéej ak seen kër ca Tëngéej daanaka ñoo jàkkaarloo da ngay jóge ci kër gi dugg ca kër gale waaye juróom it nekkoon soxna su baax ku yiw ku mën a njaboot ku sell ku neexi waxtaan ku am diine it nekkoon koo xam ne waa Tëngéej yooyu yëpp surtout jàmm gën ak yooyu xam nañ ko kon nag moom ba tey rek mbokk la ci soxna Walimata Bey mi nga xam ne ku nekk xam na ne liggéey bu rëy lay def ci Amérique lii ñu nekk di ko def xëy na média rek moo demee noonu waaye mënuñu ko ci te soxna la moom mi ngi yor daara ju mag daaray kër Sëñ Tuubaa gi moo ko yor dafa jàngal lim bu takku di fa def liggéey bu rëy ci wàllu jàngale ak yar ay doomu ndey lañ ñoom ñaar kon bu loolu weesoo suñu digganteem ak daara ji moom mën nañ ne mooy daara ji moom Djiby mën nañ ne mooy daara ji mën nañ ne daara ji mooy Djiby ndax keroog bañ koy sos te mu gën maa xam ca nañ ko sosee moom mu gën ma koo xam muy atum 2004 ca laa dem man Égypte ñoo amoon website bu rëy website boobu ca laa daan jaar di xamanteeg daara ji moom mii laa daan bindanteel yàlla dogal na samay anglais taxutoon mu am solo torop waaye daan naa jéemantu di wax ak moom tey moom it da daan bëgg di wax ak man da daan bëgg yi di ma dimbale di ma soññ ci xam-xam da daan yittewoo saa moo ko bindee message dana ma tontu bu ëpp li ma ko wax te te du yàkkamti conversation bi jeex. boobu 2004 maa ngi Égypte boobu xaw ma ne sax dinaa dikk Amérique waaye man daal la amoon daal mooy daara ji moom neexoon na ma bëggoon naa ko lool seeni liggéey neex na ma ndax gis naa lu toll ne daara ju lu toll ne Amérique ñu def fi liggéey bu toll nii di ay taalibe di ay ndaw di jàngale alxuraan di yëngu ci xam-xam loolu it xëy na tumuxaat yooyu moo nekkoon ci man ma amoon lool yitte di jokkoog ñoom moom moo yoroon website boobu géré ko toubayusa.com .org .com waaw tabarkalla kon ñoom ñoo sos daara ci moom Djiby Diagne mii kenn la ci ñoo ñii mbooloo lañ waaye moom mii kenn la ci ñoo ñii sama digganteeg daara ji man nag bi ma fi tàmbalee maa ngi dikk ci dëkk bi atum 2008 ñaari at laa ci teg yàlla àtte ma mujj awu leen ci daara di leen ci liggéeyal ñoom ñii samay jëwriñ may seen surga di liggéey kon ci seen digal moom mi keroog bi ñuy réunion ku ñu jox daara ji moom mi bokk na ca ñu joxe woon kàddoom ne yaakaar na ma ci man mii te doy naa ko ci moom ak sëñ Xaadim Njaay Matar Lo sëriñ Mandoy Njaay mii ak sëñ ab Xuddos Njaay mi fi jóge léegi Matar Gueye Sohaybu Gueye dégg nga ak leen nag ci ñoom ñëpp yàlla na leen yàlla fay kuñ si fàtte it ñoo ngi koy jéggulu yàlla na leen yàlla fay ñoom ñëpp seen yéene yàlla na ko yàlla dëggal ci ñun ñu nekk ñu baax waaye moom mii bokk na ci la mu gën a ràññi ko mooy bi nga xamee ne daara ji toll na ci ay jafe-jafe lool ak Saliou Diop fàtte naa ko sax ci daara ji Cheikh Fall tabarkalla Cheikh Fall moom damaa bàyyi ak ay doomam ba doom yi ni ñu demee kàll masha Allah bi daara ji tollee diggante bu xat bu metti boo xam ne suñ ko dee xalaat suñu danañ yóbbu fu sori nga xam ne boobu ñu bari daanañ fi dugg yàlla xam na ko daara ji doy waar lool metti lool moom mi bokk na ci ñi nga xam ne dañ fi daan ñëw di ñu nemmi ko su ma xalaatee bis yooyu ak tey ak jamono li ciy xew léeg-léeg dana am fu mu ma yóbbu ba ma yëg ko waaye moom mi daan na ñëw bu masaa ñëw fële laa daan toog ci ab chaise day ñëw taxaw tiim ma léeg-léeg mu dikk rek taxaw léeg-léeg sax du wax asalaamaaleykum pour bëgg ñoo surprise bett ñu xool ni ñu toogee jox ma ay conseiller wax ma ne ma lii xalaatal ma moom ak ma doy jaay ñoo gën a ràññi ko ci côté boobu yi xalaatal ma jox ma ay instruction dégg nga ma jàpp ci di waxtaan ak moom man it jaaxle ku ma am woo ko waxtaan ak moom ba ci ay jamono sax maa ngi fàttaliku mas nañ koo jël mas naa koo jël man mi doxale ko sama diggante waajur yi pour bëgg mu ma ciy dimbale waaye man ci sama gàttañ la man loolu ci man la yàqoo waaye du ci moom ndax man maa ko dul wax dara daanaka maa ngi mujj rek di jéewu yëpp rek waaye loolu lépp taxul mu gàttañ lu te mënoon na cee gis boppam kon loolu noonu la ko jàppee ba tey amul benn événement nag bu xew ci daara ji du dul ne da nga ko gis mu dikk toog même bu ma ko wóol ne ko Djiby daara ji am na xew-xew moom fu mu ko mën di gisee rek yëg na ko conférence daara ci amul benn conférence bu mas a am lu dul ne Djiby day ñëw jël responsabilité taxaw yor micro bi li mu war a def ko boole ma ci programme bi bu ma ko ak lu ma gàttañ moom du ma topp ci loolu day ñëw li mu war a jël assumer ay responsabilité conférence yi ñu fi defit yooyu noonu yi rek la koy defee kon yàlla fayal ci daara ji aw yiw yàlla nañu ko yàlla fayal ci aw yiw yàlla na ko alxuraan fay ci wàllu yóbbu daara ji ci kanam moom moo njëkk a jël turu daara ji ak ndongoy daara ji yóbbu leen ci magasin muy magasinu Nganti bu Julaay Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba Dey te loolu def na ko ay yoona def naa at bii passé rek def na ko ñoom Cheikh Mouhamadul Bachir bi ñu mokkalee moom moo leen génne bind leen foofu ci wàllu tasaare daara ji ak bi xale yi mokkalee ci daara ji ñi ko doon génn gën cee sonn ci wàllu média ci la bokk moo ko bind ci magasin yëgle ko ca mu tasaaroo ci àdduna bi moom mi ndax moo yor liggéey boobu ci Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba Dey bi moom mooy xawma nu ma koy waxee ci communication wala éditeur bi yooyu yëpp moom moo ko yor ndax bari na texte boo gis ci magasin bi rek da nga ca gis turam kon loolu moom moo ko defal daara ba fi mu ne nii ci digganteem ak daara ji mi ngi encouragé xale yu jigéen ñi pour ñu bind ay article te keroog ba mu koy defee ñoom ñëpp la wax bind leen article su ngeen bindee article jox ma ko ma xool ma jël ban article laay tànn dugal ko ci magasin bi kon moom ku bëggug yaatal la ku bëgg xam-xam la xam naa baatu philosophe bi ni ko Cheikh Mouhamadul Bachir Diagne tekkee keroog loolu yi moom ci moom laa ko gis muy bëgg xalaat bëgg xam-xam sax la wax waaye man bëgg xalaat laa ko teg man bëgg xam-xam waaye man bëgg xalaat laa ko teg waaw bëgg xam-xam la dëgg la waaye bëgg xalaat ndax waaye xalaat bu tege ci xam-xam nag bu tege ci dëgg xalaat boo xam ne dëgg lay recherche xalaat boo xam ne bëgg dëgg la bëgg a génne loolu la ginnaaw bi nga xamee ne yàlla boole na ko ci borom xam-xam yi tey gis nañ yeneen liggéey yi muy def ak majaalis Cheikh Abdoul Aziz Mbacké ak mboolem borom xam-xam yi képp ko maanaam daal li mu bëgg moom mooy xam-xam ak mbaax rek ak njub ak ndaw lu tënku ci yoon kon li ñu xam ci moom suñu diggante ak moom loolu la ñoo ngi ko koy seedeel ci seede goo xam ne nifaaq dugg ca seede goo xam ne bëggul maslaa dugg ca seede goo xam ne ak sos dugg ca seede goo xam ne bëgg gonfaleel mbir dugg ca waaye seede la goo xam ne li ñu gis ci moom rek la ñu wax ci moom te li yàlla xam ci moom moo gën a xóot moo gën a mat li nga xam ne moom la mbindeef xam ci moom yàlla na ko yàlla bàyyi ci suñu kanam te dëgëral ay jéegoom su ko defee dañuy woo suñu rakk Cheikh Mouhamadul Bachir Fall mu dikk toog ci place bi xëy na ubbil ko jotaay bi su ko defee moom mu tàmbali waxtaanam wax ñu dara ci boppam xëy na nag li ëpp ci waxtaan wi ci àngale lay jëm ñi ngi bàyyi xel ñi nekk ci Facebook bi ku ci am laaj boo ko bindee incha allah danañ ko jox laaj bi asalaamaaleykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakaatu.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman. Ñu ngi ziyaare waa daara ji ñu ngi leen di nuyu. Hello everybody. I will start by thanking Ustaz for all this for his testimonies about myself. I'm very humble, and I hope that all he said about me is more true than I know. I didn't know that I was doing all that, and I always humble myself to make things happen. So, and I hope I'll inspire other people around me, especially the youth, so that they can have that focus they need in life to succeed and achieve their goals in life. So today I'm here to have a conversation and discuss with you about Muslims in early America, and what do you guys know anything about Muslims, early Muslims in America, like Muslim slaves? Do you know anything about? I know that sometimes when we talk about Muslims and slavery, especially slavery, it brings some memories, but we are not here today to make any judgment about the positive impact of slavery or the negative impact. No, it's not about that. This is I'm gonna have a presentation with regards to those Muslim slaves, about their legacy, about their achievements, because most of them, they left biographies and things like that. So I'm going to be especially focusing on that part, that literature of the slaves, the narratives, not the narratives of all the slaves, but the Muslim slaves, their narratives, their autobiographies and stuff like that. So that's what I'm gonna be talking about today. So it is difficult to know the extent to which Muslims engage in corporate expression of their faith in early Puritan and Protestant America. But every time the name Muslim is mentioned, reference is also made to the undertakings of a community of believers involved in the development of events in the making, whether they are noticed or overlooked. The history of Muslims in America could be traced as far back in the 14th century. So the 14th century, because I'm gonna give a historical survey of why it is so. Because the presence of Muslims in America did not start with the arrival of slaves from West Africa. So it is believed that Muslim Africans reached the shore of the Americas, settled among native Indians, built mosques, and imprinted their marks and left a legacy in the many places they visited inland. So Christopher Columbus mentioned he spotted minarets and black people wearing Muslim garments when he first arrived in Hispaniola. Hispaniola is present day Haiti and the Dominican Republic, right? It was called Hispaniola. That's the first island that Christopher Columbus reached when he sailed here in the Americas. So his interpreter, he had an interpreter in his crew. So his interpreter, he was a Spanish Jew. He was a Jew, Spanish Jew. But he spoke Arabic to the Taino of Hispaniola. The people who lived there were called the Taino, the Indians he found there were called the Tainos. So which means the interpreter of Columbus speaking in Arabic with the Taino means that those people already knew Arabic. So we're not going to go into the details of that, but maybe on another occasion we can talk more about that. So the Spanish they routinely use the word mezquita, which means mosque in Spanish, to refer to Native American religious sites. So the Native Americans in Hispaniola, so when the Spanish saw them, so they thought they were Muslim, because they were acting like Muslims, they were dressed like Muslims, and they had, like, even if it's not like in an orthodox way as we practice our religion today, but they saw them act exactly like Muslims, because the Spanish, they know Muslim people, because Islam occupied Spain for 7 centuries. At least you know that in the history of Islam, right? So that's the interpreter of Christopher Columbus spoke with the Taino in Arabic. And traveling through Anahuac. Anahuac is present-day Texas and Mexico. So Hernan Cortez, he's the conquistador, the general of the expedition of the Spanish when they were conquering Latin America. So Hernan Cortez traveled from Hispaniola to Latin America, what is now known like Mexico, Brazil, all those Latin American countries. So Hernan Cortez, he reported that he saw more than 400 mosques back then. That was in the early 16th century. By 1503, mind you, 1503, Muslims from West Africa. When we say West Africa, we're talking about specifically Senegal. So the first slaves that were transported here, that were shipped here, were from Senegal. And they were Wolofs, Manding, Peul, and Serers, and sometimes Moors from Mauritania. So, but mostly Wolofs from the Jollof Empire. The Jollof Empire in this period, there was no Bawol or Siin Salum or Kajor. They existed, but they were vassals. That means they were controlled and they pay taxes to the Jollof Empire. So the Jollof Empire control all those states. So, which was mainly populated by Wolofs. So the first slaves that were transported here in Spanish America, Latin America, they were Wolofs, Senegalese. So by 1503, that's exactly, some are saying 1501, others are saying 1503. That's the exact time when slavery started, like the Atlantic slave trade, when they started catching slaves in Africa and bringing them here in America. That's when it started, 1503, and it went all the way down to 1888. Brazil being the last country to abolish slavery, Brazil. So between 1503 to 1888, that's almost 400 years of slavery, of slave trade, Atlantic slave trade. So Muslims from West Africa arrived in the New World in 1503. There were Wolofs mainly. Wolof slaves led the first rebellions in 1522 in Hispaniola. So they were already rebelling there because, as you know, those slaves that were caught, many of them were warriors, and I will later come on that, but there were warriors in there who were like, very used to that warrior, who have that warrior spirit, who can foment and organize rebellion, and very tactical with strategy and all that. So the first one, and that was the very first one. It was that it took place in 1522 in Hispaniola. And so the widespread misunderstanding, even among educated people, that Islam and Muslims are recent addition to the American fabric, tells us important things about how American history has been written. The history of Muslims in North America begins before the first British colony was founded in 1610. You know that the first colony, right? Jamestown in Virginia. It was founded in 1610, right? They celebrated their 400th anniversary like a couple of years ago. So that was the first first British colony. But they were already a colony. They were not British. That landed in Boston, the Mayflower, the Father Pilgrims, they were here like before the foundation of this colony. But they were not considered British, even though their origin is Britain. Because they rebelled against the religion, Christianity, and they were protesting against the religion. So they have to flee, because they were being persecuted. They have to flee England, travel all Europe before landing in America. So, but they had created their own colony before this colony, but they were not recognized as British. So, and Muslims were living in America even before Protestantism and before even Protestantism was born. Protestantism was born around the year 15 in the early 1600s. Okay, so, and Ivan van Sertima, who was a history professor hailing from Guyana, British Guyana, he passed away a couple of years ago. He was a professor. He chaired the African Studies department at Rutgers University in New Jersey. So he's a theoretician of African presence in Mesoamerica, meaning before Columbus arrived here. So he theorized the presence of Africans in Mesoamerica in his very well-researched and well-written book, They Came Before Columbus, The Presence of Africans in America. So in that book, he fictionalized, but a real story, but he fictionalized it to give his scientific approach and argument about the expedition of Abu Bakr the first and the second, were two brothers from Mali. They were kings. They were the predecessors of Kanka Musa, that you all know, Kanka Musa. You guys know about Kanka Musa, right?
Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa.
Yeah, it's called Mansa Musa. That's what Mansa Musa. Okay, so who's up today believed to be the richest man in modern history. Okay, the richest until now. So he had so much gold that, you know. So you know about the story about him like giving so much gold on his way to Mecca that it dropped the cost of the value of gold, and that's what even triggered Europeans when they heard the story to start coming to Africa, because they heard somebody is so rich and has so much gold that so in this book, Ivan van Sertima demonstrate that of course Africans were here in the 13th century, because these two brothers, they had an expedition because they had this vast empire, and Abu Bakr the First, you know, he had a very stable empire, all the vassals. Senegal was included there, Mauritania, Guinea, Niger, you know, some part of in Western Central Africa, all most of the Sahel were included in the Mali Empire, and he wanted really. He heard, you know, people were telling him about the big river, which was of course the Atlantic Ocean, and that there might be like some land beyond the water and things like that. So he decided he's gonna find out if there is something beyond the ocean. And remember when the Almoravids, you know, the Arabs who spread Islam, when they crossed all the Sahara, when they crossed Africa from East Egypt all the way to Morocco, they hit the ocean. They even didn't know that they can cross it. So instead of thinking that there was something beyond, so they just crossed the Gibraltar and then went to Spain. So in his book, They Came Before Columbus, Abu Bakr II theorized on these two brothers coming to America, and the first expedition went and only one survivor returned. So when Abu Bakr went, the first went, the elder brother, he went and didn't return. There was one survivor, according to the story in the book. So the survivor recounted what happened while they were in sea. And he said the crew disappeared, everybody, all the boats, everybody disappeared. But I was able to manage and turn back. And then his brother said, I'm gonna go and rescue them, Abu Bakr II. So, and it is even believed that he sailed from the coast of Senegal, because when he summoned all the carpenters, all the geographers, all the, you know, sky readers, those who could read the stars, and, you know, he summoned all of them. And the bravest warriors and anybody who was able to be part of the expedition, he summoned them. And it is said that he went at the shore in Senegal and, you know, cut trees, build the toughest, the most robust ships, so that he can go rescue his brother. So those are believed to be. So, you know, Mali was even though it was not all the empire of Mali was not Islamized, but by then Mali was Muslim, and there were Muslims there. Muslim communities were already established, and part of the crew of that expedition, most of them were Muslims too. And so that means Muslims were already here. And there are other archaeological findings showing their presence like I said earlier, Hernan Cortes said he saw mosques. as well as Christopher Columbus, who also had in his crew Muslims, but Spanish Muslims. So that story is maybe we'll have another occasion to talk about the presence of Muslims in Spain. So the many pages in that history of the Americas written by African American Muslim slaves are missing. So because, as you know, when the Africanist or the Americanist or literary scholars of African American or American Black American literature who studied the narratives of the slaves, they usually ignore these Muslim narratives. So that's what first happened. So, but however, there has been a regain of interest in transatlantic studies, African American history, and the Atlantic slave trade. So in the early 80s, there have been a regain of interest in that history because something was missing in the history of Black people here, of African Americans. And there have been like scholars, historians, sociologists, anthropologists. They all, and Africanists, of course, they all started, questioning that issue of, missing link, which is of course slavery. And there are about maybe 6,000 or so narratives. But among those, even outside of that, the literature, you see in the media, or even you remember the Kunta Kinte movie, right? Roots, right? Helix Heli, Kunta Kinte, the main, the main figure of the movie. He's from Africa. But no mention of his being Muslim was portrayed in the movie, right? We know he's from Guinea and all that, a village called Tufure, which was fictional, of course. But he was Muslim, Kunta Kinte. He was born Muslim. He went to Quranic school, he had a religious education and background and all that, but it was not mentioned. And you got also other African American writers who also make no mention of Muslims in their books, or in their novels. But that regain of interest among academics and scholars in universities where Department of African Studies were being set up and created, so necessarily it was important to look that part of the history of the African, of the Muslims especially, that was overlooked for centuries. So, and I'm gonna for my discussion, I'm not gonna talk about all Muslims in America, but I'm gonna talk about, I will narrow my topic to just those who are here. Some of them, of course, I picked some here in North America. So, and I will, read briefly about their stories and in the context of slavery and how they navigated and what have helped them, overcome most of the obstacles they were facing and the challenges of slavery. So those Muslims, most of them, they were illiterate. They were literate. They were urban, well-traveled. They were cosmopolitan, meaning they knew other languages. They've been to different places. Because one of the myths about slaves, like, they always say, no, these Africans, they're infantile, they're misguided, they're uncouth, meaning they are not sophisticated, they know nothing. That's what the colonists here in America, who never traveled outside of England, when they got into the ship and came over here. So that's what they were like. Those were the beliefs that Africans know nothing. So these people, these slaves, they were like, they were cultured, trustworthy, they were friendly and hospitable. They were like people, real people, who had all these skills and human qualities that were valued in them, which even sanctioned the status given them by their masters as they navigate and resist the inhuman treatment the legally recognized laws of bondage subjected them to. Slavery was a institution very well structured and organized, and which was legal. It was legal to owe a slave. So, mind you, black people were like a piece of object that you owe, like a phone or whatever, property. They were property. So, even though you have to take care of your property, but it was not as you may think of, you're taking care of your property. It was different because it was all about money. It was all about power. It was all about exploitation and the whole range of attitude against them. And so it was widely believed that the many enslaved the West African Muslim brought to the Americas was quickly absorbed in their new Christian milieu. Also, people believe that when they brought them here, they will immediately turn into Protestant or an Anglican or Episcopalian or a Methodist or a Calvinist. All those branches of Protestantism that was flourishing already here among the many communities, that was forming the American society. Mind you, you had in America back then, you had like settlers, you had like drifters, you had also people, adventurers, you had like also criminals. Because mind you, back then in England, when they got their colonies, if you were to be sentenced to death or for life or to hard labor, they will just ship you here in the U.S. in their colony here in the United States. That's what they will do. That would be your punishment. They will just like throw you out of England. So mind you, all this type of people, individuals, were interacting already here when with these slaves. So, and they were all Christians. So those are people also who have no idea what a Muslim looks like or who's Muslim or things like that, because they never interacted with one before. Unlike the Spanish, who have known Muslims for centuries. Yet Sylviane Diouf, who wrote this book, she's a Senegalese woman, and you can look at the book after. You can come and she's a very well acclaimed historian about African Muslims. She wrote many scholarly papers and wrote several books with regards to them, and she used to curate at the research center here, the Schomburg, and I believe she's still there. And she in her book, Sylviane Diouf demonstrates in her meticulously researched breakthrough volume that Islam flourished during slavery on a large scale. Even while enslaved, many Muslims managed to follow most of the precepts of their religion. They drew on their organization, solidarity, and their belief to play a major part in one of the most slave uprising in the Americas. I mentioned earlier those uprising and stuff. But for all their accomplishments and contribution to the history and cultures of the African diaspora, the Muslims have been largely ignored. That's what I was saying earlier. So I'm going to go to the sources and studies of Muslim slaves. The first published book about them is called Africa Remembered by Ivor Wilkes, addressed to the experiences that was addressing the experiences of Abu Bakr al-Siddiq. Abu Bakr al-Siddiq, he lived in Jamaica. He was a Muslim who was shipped from Africa to Jamaica, and he hailed from I think Guinea or something like that. I forgot exactly from where. And Salih Bilali, he lived here in the United States. So, and the second book that was published in 1968 by Douglas Grant was The Fortunate Slaves, an illustration of African slavery in early 18th century. That puts the story of Job Ben Suleiman, who's also called Ayub bin Suleiman. Ayub bin Suleiman. He hailed from Guinea also, and in the context of the 18th century trade, slave trade, and commercial exploits of British in West America. The trend of ignoring or marginalizing the role of Muslims in slavery in North America began to change with this Fortunate Slave publication. So people started changing their view and about Muslim slaves, which was a good thing in the perspective of African American literature. Prince Among Slaves, published in 1977 by Terry Alford, a biography of Abdul Rahman. This Abdul Rahman also, he hailed from Guinea, and the book deals with the reaction of African Muslims towards slavery. And there's this other one, African Muslims in Antebellum America. Antebellum meaning before the Civil War. It was released in 1984 by Alan D. Austin. This Alan D. Austin also, he has been really one of the major spearhead of research about the Muslim, because with his book here, people started gaining more interest and more knowledge and insights about Muslim slaves in America. So Alan Austin, he compiled the life of 65 Muslims. He's the first one to do that, and seven of whom lived in America, and the book, like I was